Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Skin and Soul podcast. I'm your host, Emily Fouts, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the good and the bad ingredients edition. So I'm just going to be detailing some things that you may want to look out for on your ingredients list, and maybe some misinformation that people might generally have about certain ingredients. So keep on listening if you're interested. So I'm going to start off with talking about sunscreens. Chemical sunscreens specifically, there are many that are endocrine disruptors or they are harmful to aquatic life. So if you do have a darker skin type, then you probably are more inclined to use a chemical sunscreen over a mineral physical, because mineral physical sunscreens can leave a white cast on your skin, and that can be unfavorable to people, understandably. So that's just what I like to use. There are hybrid sunscreens, so it doesn't leave as much of a white cast, but here are some chemical sunscreens that you want to look out for. The number one being oxybenzone. This is an endocrine disruptor and is also harmful to aquatic life. Then we have octinoxate. This one is also both harmful to aquatic life and an endocrine disruptor. Homosalate, another endocrine disruptor. Then we have octisalate, another endocrine disruptor. It also has links to contact dermatitis. And then we have oxytocrylene. This one is also harmful to aquatic life and an endocrine disruptor. Avobenzone, it is an endocrine disruptor. So to go back, the ones that are harmful to aquatic life are going to be octocrylene, and then oxybenzone, and then octinoxate. So if you don't know the difference between chemical and mineral sunscreens, chemical sunscreens absorb into your skin and then it scatters the sun's rays and converts them into heat. You have to put it on about 10 minutes before you have sun exposure. Mineral physical sunscreens, you put it on, it sits on top of your skin and reflects the sun's rays kind of like a mirror. And so I personally prefer mineral physical because I have a 2-year-old and I just like to get sunscreen that the whole family can use. You don't want to use chemical sunscreen on a child because their skin is more reactive when they're very young, and then also if it smears into their eyes, it can be very irritating. So mineral physical sunscreen is going to cause less irritation on the face if it were to get into their eye. And so real quick before I move into another category, mineral physical sunscreen, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, I do want to mention that zinc oxide provides more protection than titanium dioxide does. So if you're looking for the best sun protection, don't get one that is just titanium dioxide. Get one that has both of those ingredients. Moving on, let's talk about alcohols. Alcohol, when you think about it, your mind kind of goes to just like isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol. So obviously that's not what alcohol is. Alcohols, there are many different kinds, and they are a fundamental ingredient in formulations for cosmetics, skincare. So I'm going to list the good and the bad alcohols that you want to look out for. So the bad alcohols obviously is just going to be straight up alcohol, ethanol, denatured alcohol or alcohol denate, methanol, SD alcohol, and isopropyl alcohol. So these are going to be ones that are going to be very stripping and drying. And so some other good alcohols that are just fundamental ingredients to the formulation of our products are going to be cetyl alcohol, stearyl alcohol, lauryl alcohol, glycol, C12-16, myristyl alcohol, cetyl alcohol. The most common are going to be cetyl and stearyl and lauryl alcohol. So, like I mentioned, a lot of people will think if it has alcohol, it's like basically isopropyl alcohol, it's rubbing alcohol, but it's not. So, yeah, not all alcohols are bad. Those are the good and the bad ones there. Moving on to the next one, this isn't really good and the bad. This is one versus the other, and this is going to be squalane versus squalene. So, I do actually have a product from Glymed Plus that has squalene in it, and I like the product, but I would prefer that it did have squalane. So, squalene is more comedogenic than squalane is, and squalene is also traditionally derived from shark liver, whereas squalane is sustainably derived from sugar cane. Squalane feels more weightless on the skin. It's not comedogenic. It promotes microbiome diversity for healthier skin. And, they both are humectants, though. And if you're not familiar with what a humectant is, that it is an ingredient that attracts water to the skin. Similar ones would be aloe vera, hyaluronic acid, glycerin to compare it to. So, yeah, just kind of a one versus the other type of thing. And then this is something that the next two topics are probably the most important. So, I want to talk about, chemicals. People want to talk about natural versus chemical. So, chemicals are our friends. Everything is a chemical. We're made of chemicals. Oxygen is a chemical. But there are definitely some that are bad. So, some of them are endocrine disruptors and carcinogens. I mentioned the sunscreens that are endocrine disruptors. Specific alcohols that I mentioned, phthalates. So, talking about phthalates, you want to look out for DEP, DBP, or DEHP. And so, the thing with phthalates is they're chemicals used to make plastic more durable, and they're often found in our cosmetics and our skincare. They're used in products with color or fragrance, like nail polish or hairspray or skincare. And so the way that we can spot them is we can look for abbreviations such as BBP, DBP, MBP, DEHP, MEHP, DEP, DIDP, DNP, DNHP. So basically, if it ends in a P, it's like a 3-letter abbreviation. That's a phthalate. Most commonly is going to be DEP, DBP, and DEHP. And so, yeah, these, phthalates, they're not good for our skin. And companies will try to hide them on product labels by using these abbreviations. But that is what they do to try and make it more durable. And it's usually cheaper companies that aren't worried about our environment or sustainable ways of practice. So, parabens, some people might get parabens mixed up with phthalates. Parabens aren't bad. Parabens, there was a couple that the EU banned, but they weren't even parabens that were commonly used in skincare or cosmetics. So I think that kind of made a bad name for it. But however, phthalates are bad. Okay, excuse me. The last one is going to be forever chemicals. This is a newer study. So, also known as PFAAs. They are found in makeup, but they're not on ingredient labels. You might have seen recently a lot of sunscreens that got recalled, mostly Neutrogena, because they had forever chemicals in them. So, you can see it beginning in perfluor, the word perfluor. So it's going to be PERFLUOR. If it has that on it, it is a forever chemical. So, long-wearing foundations, 63% of long-wearing foundations contain fluorine in them. 58% of eye products, 55% of lip products, and 47% of mascaras. This is just an accumulative study that was done. So, I have taken away long wearing foundations and waterproof mascara from my routine, and not just in makeup, but other things that are like water resistant clothing also has forever chemicals in them, synthetic man-made compounds. So yeah, like a non-stick skillet, water repellent qualities on any products. So yeah, they're nicknamed forever chemicals because they're very persistent in our environment and our bodies. So basically our bodies will break down some chemicals, but our bodies are not able to break down these chemicals, so our bodies just accumulate them over time. And it's carcinogenic to our body, which is cancer causing. So, yeah, not just that, but thyroid disease, liver damage, and reproductive issues. So, I think it's really great that these studies are being done and a lot more awareness is being done to the ingredients that we're using in our products, because is so much out there in the market. And so, I think it's good for consumers to have this type of knowledge. So even if you're not an esthetician, you're just a consumer, I think it's important to listen to this and maybe listen to it a couple times, just to kind of retain certain knowledge and look back at your product labels and see if you happen to have a forever chemical, or if you have a long wearing foundation that you really like, maybe rethink that. Start getting a non-waterproof mascara. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the arrangement of ingredient list on our product labels. So many of you may not know, unless you are a professional in the industry, that there is an arrangement to the ingredients list. So what it starts with is the highest percentage of the product. So if a product is, let's say there's this hydrating mask and it's supposed to have aloe vera in it, and aloe vera isn't until like 2/3 of the way down on the ingredient list, that product is trash. So yeah, you want to make sure that the order of ingredients, whatever its main purpose is supposed to be, that it is having some type of priority on that ingredient arrangement. So lastly, a quick overview of the thing I mentioned, being the chemical sunscreens that are harmful to aquatic life and that are also endocrine disruptors. That was going to be octinoxate, oxybenzone, a few other ones, mostly all of them, to be honest. But yeah, the number one and two are going to be oxybenzone and octinoxate. And then the good and the bad alcohols, there's like 6 alcohols that are actually, bad, that are unfavorable. That's going to be alcohol, ethanol, denatured alcohol or alcohol-adenate, methanol, SD alcohol, and isopropyl alcohol. So if you see one that's cetyl alcohol, stearyl alcohol, lauryl alcohol, cideryl alcohol, those are fine. It's just the other ones that you want to look out for. And generally you won't really see those unless it's in a toner, a crappy toner. And so then we have phthalates. Those are going to be DEP, DBP, DEHP. Anything that starts with a D, ends with a P, it's probably a phthalate. And so these are, these are carcinogenic. So we also have forever chemicals. So if it begins with perfluoro, PERFLURO, that is a forever chemical. And so, like I said, companies will try and hide that by using that. So yeah, not only in makeup but in water resistant materials. Also look out for the abbreviation PFAS. Those are another way to identify a forever chemical in your products. So yeah, this is carcinogenic, and it is linked to certain types of cancer, of course, with it being carcinogenic, thyroid disease, liver damage, and reproductive issues. So yeah, I have taken waterproof mascara out of my routine, and long wearing foundation. I don't know if I mentioned, but 63% of foundations were detected to contain a forever chemical. 58% of eye products, 55% of lip products, and 47% of mascaras. So this was the study that was done this past year. And I was trying to find where the study was done at, but I'm not sure. I do know that study was shared by Dr. Whitney Bowe. She's a renowned, a very well-known dermatologist, so I'm sure the study is backed. And this was over 200 makeup products were tested in the US and Canada for PFAAs. And that's what they found. So unfortunately, a lot of makeup does have forever chemicals in it. So at least you can kind of take out the long wearing and the waterproof aspect of it, and know that you are canceling out a big part of the possibility of having a forever chemical in your body. Well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you learned something useful, and maybe you can go back with some knowledge and look at your product labels and see if you're confident in the products that you're using, and have a little bit more of an informed opinion on products that you buy in the future. So, I will see you guys next Monday, 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for another episode.